Welcome to the Book Corner with me, Mish Atagana, a podcast for book lovers and book lovers adjacent. Hello, and welcome back to the Book Corner. I'm so excited today because I've just gotten so much good reviews and feedback regarding the episode I had with my friend Elijah. I'm just so glad you guys are enjoying it. And I hope to keep giving you more exciting content. And yes, we do have such a bantering relationship, but we love it. We would not have it any other way. Um, so today, I feel like when I did the N.K. Jemisin as well as the Roseanne A. Brown books, I should have just done the duologies together. To be fair, in the case of N.K. Jemisin, I hadn't actually finished reading the second book at the time. But today, I'm going to do a 2-for-1 and talk about the second book in both of those duologies. So a quick recap. Roseanne A. Brown, we talked about a Song of Wraith and Ruin. And that was such a fascinating story. Again, West African folklore, West African mythos, and things like that was super exciting. And then N.K. Jemisin, where we talked about the city, we really focused on just this incredible world that she built in this urban fantasy about these avatars of these cities that came to life and how they're trying, or this particular city that's trying to stay alive, which is New York City. So today I thought, why not come back with a conclusion of these two books? So A Psalm of Storm and Silence is the second book in the Roseanne A. Brown duology. And then The World We Make is the second book in the city, or the world's cities duology by N.K. Jemisin. So so I'm super excited for those, and I really hope that you guys enjoy it. I'm gonna spend the next kind of 25 to 30 minutes with you guys just talking about these two books, how I came to read them and what I think about them, and just I hope the discussion is helpful to those of you that are wanting to read this book or have already read these books. I would love, if you've already read the books as well, I would love your thoughts. So yeah, let's get started. So we're gonna start with A Psalm of Storm and Silence. What I quite like here is we literally start from where the first book ended. Karina is running for her life, trying to figure out a way to save her kingdom. She had been betrayed by someone she once called a brother. Her sister has risen from the dead. Sorry, spoiler alert. Malik is trapped in this weird cycle where he's got the fallen king slash demigod Idir is locked within his soul, and everybody's just trying to figure out their day, barring Farid, who has literally turned out to be the villain in Ship's Clothing, where everyone, I didn't even see it coming. I did not think Farid would be the betrayer that he turned out to be. So that was a mind-boggling, twist at the end of book one. But here we have Karina with unlikely allies. They're all out in the desert trying to figure out what to do next. Karina's powers are not what she kind of is able to control. To be fair, she's gotten this power for the first time, so she's trying to figure out how to work this power. The kingdom is in disarray because the barrier that protected the kingdom from magic, or at least that kept magic outside, is now open. Now magic is within, right? And interestingly enough, Farid, who is also a practitioner of magic, which is kind of on the other hand. So there's like two kinds of practitioner of magic. There are those who are, able to kind of work with elements and things like that. And there are people who innately kind of conjure, are conjurers. So Malik is a conjurer. And now we're sitting here trying to figure out what's going to happen. Is Karina going to succeed? Will her allies will they be able to get her to where she needs to go? So, these other magicians can hide her. Will Farid get to her first? And more importantly, what's happening with Malik? Is Malik so desperate for to belong, for family, that he's now begun to believe. So Malik has now decided that Farid will be his mentor, and he's just like him because they both kind of come from the same branch of magic practitioners. And it is so interesting to me just how all these plays, right? So, like, a castle is a political treasure trove of betrayal and just constant fear. Now Malik and his older sister now have their younger sister back, but she's so reserved because she's been caught up in the spirit realm for such a long time, and she's not quite sure what is real and what is not. And can you blame her? You know, this is a little kid of I think she's like 6 or 7 years old. So her world is changing. Then on the other hand, you've got a resurrected princess who is not meant to be in this world, right? The way Malik describes his experiences with her is she feels cold, um, so still quite frigid, like almost like a dead thing. So every time he touches her, his body naturally recoils because it's not supposed to be. She's not supposed to be there, and I just cannot believe that these children, because the oldest person here actually is Farid, who is what, 20, 21, maybe 20, I think maybe in the early 20s, who is supposed to be the adult for the 16 and 17-year-old. His grasp for power and need to have what he wants, it's so strong that he doesn't really see beyond that. And so as Karina kind of goes on her journey, she decides that what she needs to do in in order to bring back peace to the kingdom is to do what the first of her lines, or great 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 whatever, how many great grandmother, but they call the character grandmother, right? Is to the originator of the house Asari, is to go to this kind of temple of the gods and beseech the gods to give her the power to be able to defeat her enemies. So this is now the journey she's on. And because somehow when Malik tried to kill her at the end of book one, there was a kind of clash of power. So now their powers have this weird intertwined relationship with it. So these are two binary stars almost orbiting each other where they cannot escape each other, and their magic has connected them in some way. So now every time they go to sleep, when they dream, they see each other, and they can interact with each other in the dream, and they see what both see, and they both keep having this recurring dream of these two girls who are playing by the beach, and they're chilling and having a good time. And they keep trying to figure out what's going on with these girls. Who are these girls? What is the relationship? Why do they keep seeing this girl? And it's just they see this intense connection of just love and a kinship and a bond. And it turns out both girls happen to be two separate sides of that magic practice that is that keeps that are trying to that are separated right now. So in their opinion, they're like, how can two people from two different sides of this coin be so, like, in tune with each other? How could they possibly, wanna engage with each other? How are they friends? What does this mean? And I think for me, the way the subtlety of the dream begins to reveal history to them is really well done. Because often you find, for people to learn some of these lessons that they learn through this dream, they either go into some sort of temple, or they find some ancient thing, or one of them has this vision and then has to convince the other. But I think it was central the way the author had made sure that both of them were learning together and understanding together, right? And there's a point where the slavers come from the pharaoh's castle, and they grab, like, the younger of the two girls, and the younger of the two girls turns out to be Malik's ancestor. And the older girl runs and hides, who turns out to be Karina's ancestor. And the great queen that saved their land, that created this, incredible world and saved them from the pharaohs. And for that, that really creates a crisis of conscience for Karina, where she goes, this woman is supposed to be have been the greatest ruler of her time. She brought peace, and she stopped the pharaoh's, cycle of violence. Yet here she is betraying her one true friend when her friend needed her. And what does that actually mean? And this further also makes Malik pull away, because he feels, wow, these people really don't care about us, and they truly did betray us. And it's very fascinating to just watch the the way they try to figure out their romantic relationship versus what they're learning and what is happening around them. And the fact that Malik is also keeping the fact that Farid has become his mentor from Karina in these little rendezvous that they have. So he he is trying to have almost like a double life, right? Where he and Karina have this really lovely dreamscape that they escape to, and they're happy in there. And then there's another where he's in the real world, where Farid is calling the shots, and he's scared for his sisters, and he's trying to do better, and his powers are growing, but he's being put through these grueling tests where requires blood for him to survive. And it's very, very fascinating, just how he's also trying to manage within himself the prisoner that is held within his soul, which is, the King Gidir, who is supposed to be the big villain that caused all these to break, right? We One of the things that I like about the story of Idir was kind of like this spirit demigod, I don't know what you call him, who met the first of the Albasari line, and they fell in love, and they had children, and it was great. But in the end, she chose to sacrifice their family for the greater good. And for him, that is something unforgivable, to have to sacrifice a child. So you also come to learn about him a little bit, and you're also sitting there going, wait a second, who is the villain here? And I really like that. Like, there are no clear villain. Well, except for Farid, because man is straight up a villain, but we'll get to him just now. But so I thought that was so interesting, just how your big bad at the beginning, we slowly get to chip away at what caused him to become a big bad, and here we are. And it's like, I don't know, like, you kind of have a point. Like, why would I trap my own kid in a comet just to protect my kingdom? Like, so it's so interesting for me. And then, like, also Karina's journey, like when she gets to this temple eventually and beseeches the great mother, the goddess, to say, hey, I know that we pissed you off, and you're about to like destroy the world in these plagues and pestilence, and with the great beast that's coming. I want to stop it. Please give me the power to go defeat my enemy, so I can stop this from happening, and I can send the creature that's causing this, which happens to be her resurrected sister, by the way, back to where she should be. And the great mother, through her great great grandmother, which is again the origin of the Absari line, literally goes, sorry, kid, we're not doing that. That's not a thing that's going to happen today. You need to make the ultimate sacrifice, and that is to kill yourself and sacrifice your life for the greater good. Baby's like, I don't want to die. I get her. I get her. She's finally had the freedom she's always wanted. She has left the kingdom. She's out in the world. She is experiencing things for the first time. She's getting to grasp with her powers. She has a community of allies who, trust and will support her. And now you're telling her she's got to give up her life for what? Like, she doesn't want to do it. So she has it back and forth. Eventually, she comes to the conclusion, well, that okay, I guess we have to do the sacrifice. So I don't know if you listen to the first episode of that focuses on the duology, you will remember that for her to resurrect her mother, which is the resurrection spell. She needed the heart of a king. But for them to reverse the spell that resurrects the dead, they need the heart of a queen, or the soul of a queen, I think. So essentially, she has to die for the gods to be appeased and for the person who was resurrected to be able to stay. So it is such a crazy thing. So eventually, she gives herself up and she gets carried back to Farid, who, as we kind of learn throughout this book, is just been grooming these girls, especially Karina's sister, since they were kids. Like he uses words like, see what you make me do. I hate you, or I did this, or I killed this person because you did this. See what you make me do. I can't live without you. If you do this, I will kill myself. So very like really grooming language. And to be honest, while I was listening to well, when I was reading and kind of hearing the thoughts of Karina's sister and the way she did stuff to please him just so he wouldn't be mad and it would be okay and she could manage it. I mean, he killed a potential suitor for this young girl because he poisoned himself and someone, and then this person's whole life got ruined because of it. And he keeps justifying his actions, and she's so scared that she just has to keep doing things so he doesn't get to that next level. And for me, that was so heartbreaking to read. Just this messaging around grooming and young women and just the things that they have to do. And even with Malik as well, he does a lot of that grooming language around him. Like the vulnerability of young people and being forced in these kind of things was just it was so intense to me. But um so yeah, so Karina's here, ready to sacrifice her life for the kingdom, and her sister doesn't want her to do that. So and the last or the second last of these things, of the plagues and the pestilence and catastrophes that the Great Mother is wrecking on them is here, and she falls sick to the plague. So Malik has to take her up the mountains to go get healed. So he and Karina, they go on this intense journey. They get there. Finally, they meet a group of people who happen to be people that Karina's been traveling with, Malik's family, so his mother and grandmother, who happen to be people that Karina helped along the way when she was in the desert. And they literally help heal Karina. And they're like, guys, we only have one way to do. We've got to fight our way out because people are after us. And I just really love the fact about how they came together in the end and the sacrifices. And at the end of the day, there had to be sacrifice, right? And the sacrifices that were made. I also love just again, mental health, I think, is such a huge theme in this writing. Like Malik's anxiety, just the way he's confronting them better. Idir's sacrifice also, and who he becomes and the way he sees and the trust and confidence he gives to Malik in this process and how he can come to care for him. Karina going from the selfish princess to someone who was willing to risk her life for her kingdom. I thought that was so great. And then I just think that in the end, so just the way the kingdom is going to try and rebuild was super interesting. And I'm not going to tell you what happened to Farid, but he got his just desserts. He definitely got his just desserts, I will say. The conclusion is an interesting one because they don't necessarily end up together at the end of the book, Karina and Malik. And I don't want to give it away, but I love the way it's so open ended, and I love the hyena's role in this. So the hyena's always there, either hinting at what's gonna happen, guiding but not quite, but also mischievous through a way where she's just like, I am here for chaos and I'm gonna push you and I'm gonna watch chaos happen. So I really like that. It was just such a fascinating read, and just to delve into West African folklore is always a good thing for me. So yeah, if you really love like West African folklore, and I mean I'm just super keen on these books. It was just a really enjoyable read for me. All right, here we are back with N.K. Jemisin. So the world we make, I will say was decidedly an easier read for me than The City We Became. I don't know what it is, but when I started reading The World We Make, I just kind of got into it, right? It was just easier. I think maybe because I'm more used to the characters, I understand the world and the setting more. And it definitely was just easier to read because of that. So we pick up immediately after the events of the city we became. Like our avatars are exhausted, their powers are diminished after their confrontation with the woman in white. Remember, the woman in white is kind of the big bad, so it's like the central enemy to New York City's entity. Who works for the enemy who is in this kind of other world place. Um, but yeah, so they're tired. They battled they battle the woman in white, powers diminished. Brooklyn is struggling to protect her beloved brownstones. And yeah, if you've read the first book, you understand. I don't want to give away. And it just and which highlights kind of some of the new dangers that they face, right? So things like gentrification, displacement, and the insidious threats to the city's very soul, right? I quite like that they also bring in, well, she as an NK Jemisin brings in, as I said to you guys in the last one, where this really feels like a bit of a mirror of American modern society right now. So anyone who's watched American news or seen news coming out of the US or spent any time in the US longer than a week or two, you will start to notice this thing, the heightened things around elections these days. And America's having another major election this year that is for sure going to decide a lot of things for the country. So they play into that a little bit. So there's a mayoral election which serves as a catalyst for the escalating tension. And it really mirrors a lot of the real world anxieties, that are seen in the story. And that's kind of, for me, was like in urban writing or in urban fantasy writing or any kind of fantasy writing, maybe, there you get like two, maybe three kinds of authors, right? You get authors that create a world that is truly built for escape, right? You fully escape, you get lost in it, and it doesn't have anything. There are no lines, parallel lines you can draw to the real world in that case, right? Yeah, there's definitely world politics and things like that, but there's real proper escapism that you get from it, right? And I think that something like a Chronicles of Narnia is a real world escapism. Yes, there's a lot of theme touching when it comes to religion and how you can find God and Jesus in all parts of your life and at different ages. One of my favorite quotes from Chronicles of Narnia was when Aslan says to the kids, like, um, they won't be able to come to Narnia anymore, but they have to learn to know him by another name in their world, right? So for sure, there's real world connections there, but there's a true escapism. Then you have something like NK's writing where it is about your world. All she's added is a layer of magic. It's literally, think of every single person that lives in your world, the way this world is set, the politics that are happening of the day, the issues that are happening of the day. The only difference is there's an element of fantasy to it, there's an element of magic to it. And that's how our story kind of takes place. So for me, that was super interesting to kind of see how she plays that. So we're back again with our characters. Manny is here. He is very disillusioned. Like proper doesn't wanna get involved. The challenges just keep getting more and more for him. The rest of the boroughs are doing their best. Like I said, Brooklyn is trying to protect the brownstones. Bronca is still fierce and loyal and still one of my favorite characters here. Padmini, as I call her, Pad, still very artistic. We still see that you know sense of wisdom that we get from her, which is really exciting. Then we have Staten Island, who is still reluctant, still isolated, still kind of racist. And then Queens, who's undergoing like a very intense transformation. And I just really love these different things that we see about the different boroughs, right? And then we get all these allies, like there's a avatar called Neek, the young avatar in training who's filled with determination, and we get to see a bunch of other avatars from other cities, like other cities avatars here a lot, which I really thought was quite cool. Last book we really spent a lot of time in Sao Paulo, or here we've seen different avatars from different cities. And then like the antagonist is just like feels really menacing, So I think I want to say it's pronounced Relie, Relie, Relie. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna say that's how it's pronounced. It's like this embodiment of a cosmic horror. Yeah, I think I would like. Let's see, how would I describe this? Let me see if I can find the page where how you spell this. Relie. How's right? It's like R apostrophe L YEH. I don't know. Anyway, so it's like this cosmic horror, and oppression. Like it's literally, it's very Lovecraftian when I think about that. And I think I think I read somewhere that N.K. Jemisin drew inspiration from Lovecraft for this, but I can't. Please don't quote me on that. I don't know for sure, but I do get a very Lovecraftian sense from this monster. Like that, it makes me think of a Lovecraft monster. So it's like an interdimensional threat. So it's not just a threat to this world, but to the multiverse. And I think that's super like interesting to see just the way she plays that as well. And then I also find that I like that the plot is not one of those things where it's like, okay, we have our victory. Um, let's kind of rest. It's like we don't have the energy, we don't have the time. There's just so much that's going on. So like one of the things I also love again is the world building, right? So looking at New York City as a living entity, and I love the way that the world building is so subtle yet so vivid. I think that's really really exciting. I also like the multiverse, the way the multiverse is treated here, right? Where it's like dimensions and also this other awakened avatars and the cities and just the way they're confirming and offering potential alliances. Remember I said they're new allies, and just the way that she weaves the multiverse together is really great, right? But it's bringing that interdimensional threat into the real world. It's how, Raya, or however you say its name, is how it just clashes in this real world horror, in the say in the themes of gentrification, racism, and societal oppression. That is so fast. It's very, very like, crazy to think about. Just merging so many different elements, even though some of them might seem little, into this state of heightened fear, a state of heightened conflict all the time. And that's really, really what leads our plot, right? Like it's the conflict is so much more, like I said, the enemy is so much more insidious and is bigger than the women. The women in white was like child's play compared to compared to like their big boss, right? And it's just the way that also the city is getting corrupted from within. So, and this is actually quite fascinating because people often kind of talk about how evil spreads, right? Evil doesn't declare that I am here and I'm evil. Evil actually spreads by posing as good. And little by little, things are broken down from inside. And the next thing you know, you just can't recognize the good or the dark from the light anymore. So it was just really, so for me, that's like super interesting. And again, like I said, the mayoral elections are the catalyst for this. Like just using harmful rhetoric, which you see a lot in American politics right now. So that was also really interesting to see how she worked that in. And then the internal struggles, like the avatars, they may be the embodiment of the city, but there's also humanity about them. They're vulnerable, like Manny has a lot of self-doubt. And Brooklyn is suffering from consequences from the first book. And it's the relationship is fractured. Like Staten Island is a huge challenge for them. Like they are not a united front. And that for me is it's so good to see that these entities are not above humanity or human feelings or vulnerabilities. So I think that was really, really good. And obviously, the like I said, the multiverse is a big thing. So the threat is no longer just about New York City. It's a larger, kind of almost planetary scale of problem. And then I think the battle for me was so interesting because it felt both physical and metaphorical in many ways, right? So we get to test a lot of the avatar powers, and we get to test their will to survive, and their will to resist oppression, no matter where it comes from. And that was a really, really intense thing to see. So, like, I did find though that the way the book kind of concludes is a little bit bittersweet victory. Wow, yes. Should I tell you guys what happens in the end? It's so worth reading though. Like, even if you know what happened, it's so worth reading to understand better. But even though there is a victory, the fabric of the city, the way the city has been tested and broken to the point of said victory, and the sacrifices that were made is not left unseen. The city will there will be consequences, if that makes sense. There will be consequences. And just there's a lot of loss here as well. So much loss. Oh, so much loss. But I do like that it has an open kind of ending. So more things to come. Maybe one day she'll write like a side book about another avatar, like focus on another avatar city. I don't know. I would love to see how a story purely based in LA about the avatar of LA, or maybe Paris or London, another city avatar, or maybe hey, let's talk about the avatar of Lagos, or the avatar of Johannesburg. I think that could be quite an interesting one. But yeah, so definitely, so it feels so precious. Like the time is ticking, and every second seems so precious, and each character seemed to be at their last strength. Like every minute and every day of the storytelling feels like it is the last strength of that character that we're using to tell that story. But it's just so wonderful to just be able to pick this book up and just kind of get into it after the city we made. And I'm so glad that it didn't take me as long and I was able to get into it now. There's definitely said to be said about a character, or understanding a world and a character and the characters in that world when you get to read them a second time, or at least a new story about them, feels so much more better. But yeah, so The World We Make, the second in the N.K. Jemisin duology. Well, there you have it. The conclusion of the duologies. I hope that you enjoyed that. I definitely enjoyed talking to you guys about these books. So I'm going to put them back now. If I can reach, there we go. All right, let's put the book back on the shelf. So once I finish reading the book, I like to put them back on the shelf. But it's been so great chatting to you about these books. Do let me know what you think. You can find me on Instagram at @GlobeMish. You can find me on TikTok, Mish Atagana, and on X, Mish Atagana as well. Can't wait to talk to you next time. I hope I bring you another fascinating discussion. Also, send me book recommendations that you think I should do on the podcast. Thanks so much. Bye.